Ray Gordon.
Mike Mitchell.
Marty Birch.
Ken Shoemaker.
Steve McAdoo.
Okay, let's take a look at the agenda this evening, and looks like we've got the minutes. I know that we've all got a copy of the minutes in front of us. Does everybody get a chance to look at that? If so, if you have any comments?
On 5B, Scott, you said that I had questions about access to Clackamas River Trail. I believe I stated that it stunk.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. That's fine. I did have some questions.
If you remember what they were, I just wrote.
That was the answer I got. That can be expected.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Yeah, I'm watching people read it, that's all.
Oh.
Okay, all right, looking good. Okay, motion approved. Was that a motion?
A motion to approve
Okay.
the minutes. I second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and it's approved for the meeting that took place on March 29th. And we'll move on. Citizen comments. Seeing none. Neither comment nor citizen. We'll move on to number 4, general business. And letter A, Pioneer Community Center update. And I know we have Kathy here, so welcome, Kathy.
Kathy is our Pioneer Center supervisor, for those of you who have not met Kathy. I think several of you have. And what I'd like to do is, with this nice facility that we have now, just in an effort to make sure that you as PrAC members know what's going on in our department, part of that, I'd like to have some of our staff come and give you a 10-15 minute overview of some of the different areas. So Kathy was kind of the first to volunteer to do that, and I'm going to give you a little slideshow here about what the Pioneer Center is and what we do and all the great stuff that we're doing. And then I think next month we'll probably have Rochelle, our pool supervisor, come and do the same thing for the pool. And kind of on an every once in a while we'll do these types of things for you, just to give you information, also give you an opportunity to know our staff, and also be able to ask questions that you might have, so you're familiar with our operations, in case while you're out there representing the Parks and Rec part of the community, if people ask you questions, you might have a little bit more answers.
Awesome.
Anyway,
Welcome in. Thank you.
and on your screen, you just switch the little toggle button and you should be able to get to the presentation. Yeah. So you don't have to spin around and look.
I think Denise is getting the lights turned down so we can see. Because I want everybody to see this fabulous PowerPoint presentation. It's my first ever. Thank you very much. Self-taught, by the way. So the Pioneer Community Center, if you don't know, there we go. Great, thank you. As I said, it's my first ever. You folks all know where the Pioneer Community Center is because you've been meeting there fairly regularly. So you've seen some of the dramatic changes over the last, well, couple of years. This is a center that we want people to feel very comfortable coming into. We don't want anybody to feel like it's their first day of kindergarten and they don't know anybody. We want people to feel welcome and comfortable. So we say that it is a place where there are no strangers, only friends you have yet to meet. There out front near the flagpoles is the Memorial Square. And this is a little bit of the information about that Jacobs Memorial Square. In 1954, Francis and Hilda Jacobs wanted to give something to the city in memory of their father and their brother. So they created a fund, and the fund was for educational and charitable purposes. So the whole block that the Pioneer Center sits on, that entire city block, was purchased from this Jacobs Foundation and donated to the city in 1974 to be forever used for the recreational, educational, and civic purposes for residents of this city. So that's a picture of the Memorial Square, it's a real interesting story. It talks about the mill and the woolen mill and how that family passed this woolen mill down generation by generation, and when it ended, they set up this memorial fund and have done quite a bit of nice work with those funds. And we're very fortunate to have had them donate that. The center was built in 1979, as you can kind of tell by the architectural structure. The senior center for Oregon City was originally housed in the basement of the Pulp and Paper Workers Union Hall, and that was around 1974. And obviously space was inadequate, and it was not somewhere that was considered long-term housing for them. So funding was gathered, and the facility itself was built with HUD discretionary block grant funding, urban county grant. City kicked in about $93,000, and then the seniors in this area that were very active in moving this forward did various things, selling things, fundraising events, dinners, spaghetti dinners, and came up with almost $9,000, and that's what they built. It's a very nice facility that has many purposes, and we're very lucky to have this size of community center in our city. So the Pioneer Center, it is a multi-purpose facility, and it used to be specifically a senior-only center. So it provided services only to seniors and disabled people in our community, but now it is an adult community center, so anyone over 21 can come in and participate. The center provides meals to the community. Specifically, Meals on Wheels are delivered to, now it's over 115 homebound persons a day, and those are meals that are provided for 7 days a week. We have 5 hot meals and 2 frozen meals for the weekends. And there's a hot sit-down noon meal at the center for seniors and low-income clients in the community. Transportation services are provided 5 days a week for things like shopping, medical appointments, recreation, and trips to the center, and just about anything. I mean, you know, if you call up and say, I need to go see my friend across town, we'll pick you up. Social services are offered for those in need of legal assistance, energy assistance, caregiver support. We refer people out to other resources that we can't help them with, such as money for electricity, heat, those kinds of things. We provide information about long-term care, Medicaid and Medicare issues, geriatric assessments, case management support services. We've assisted the county in monitoring clients in the community, protective services, all kinds of things. We also provide recreational and educational opportunities, such as art classes. We've got oil painting, acrylic, watercolor. We've got exercise classes, which are Tai Chi, yoga, aerobic dance. We've got seminars on healthy living, financial management. We take trips to local attractions. We just got back from the Tulip Farm, and they're going to be they go to Spirit Mountain. That's a pretty popular one. Going out for lunch, just getting out of town and seeing something different. We take trips to the coast, Mount Hood, anywhere that's about 2 to 3 hours from the center, we'll go. We've got computers over there for people to access. We're looking into getting Wi-Fi. We've got a pool table, and that's getting really popular. They play poker and bingo, and my motto, and Denise knows, we'll do just about anything that isn't illegal and that I don't get caught at. Mm-hmm. So here's a picture of meals being prepared in the kitchen. We've got a nice commercial kitchen with commercial grade equipment that really cranks out a lot of meals. So we provide about 40,000 meals for the Meals on Wheels program in a year, and provide about 9,500 meals on site every year.
I made her. She's the cook.
Okay. That's amazing, Kathy. That volume.
It's big.
The kitchen's amazing if you've never been in there.
Yeah. And if you guys want a tour, if you haven't been in the kitchen, it's kind of fun to see. Here's a picture of some of our volunteers for our Meals on Wheels program. We have people pack the food, seal the food, and then we also have drivers that pick up the coolers and take them out on routes for Oregon City, West Lynn, and we go out to Beaver Creek area as well. We had last year over 12,000 hours of volunteer services in nutrition, recreation, reception, and social services. And if we paid them a base pay of $10 an hour, that's over $122,000 a year just in straight salary. So here's a picture of one of our classes, and you can see it's pretty full. We've got several exercise classes, and those right now are very popular with people trying to live healthy, eat healthy, be healthy. We're at maximum capacity with waiting lists for every exercise class. We also have a workout room, and we keep the room to 50 and older. We had some concerns with younger folks getting in there. The seniors were uncomfortable, so we just made that decision to keep it at a 50 and over group, and it's really popular.
Is that room back closer to Washington?
That is on the corner. That is on the southwest side, down by the craft room.
I haven't seen that. Where can you go?
See this guy, this is Rick, and he
Oh, that's why. He's a musician guy.
he's a DJ. And he comes in and he will orient you to all of the equipment, and he works out there pretty regularly. I think he's a
Everyone
drummer.
lives in Oregon City. Yeah, Rick Farrar.
It's around.
Farrar, is that his last name? Good guy.
Might be watching right now.
Call. So one of our recreation services that we provide, socialization is critical for keeping you healthy mind as well as your physical health. So we have a dance, a big band dance every Wednesday, and people come from far and wide to dance. And if you haven't ever been there to hear the music is exceptional. It's that old swing band, and it's a lot of fun to listen to. Here's our social services coordinator, Beth Schleichert, and she provides tremendous amount of service in the community. People can come in that are cold, hungry, and without shoes, and she will hook them up and get them taken care of by the end of the day. She's pretty amazing. People and their families need a lot of assistance in just basic services anymore. Energy assistance is big. At Christmas time, there are a lot of families who don't have enough to buy Christmas presents for anyone in their family, so we hook them up with Christmas baskets, Christmas food. We help them get food stamps, protective services. There's a lot that comes out of that office. So during some of the city's most difficult financial times, the Pioneer Center was in a terrible spot with major maintenance issues. I came on about 6 years ago, and there were some catastrophic maintenance issues. And we didn't want to wait for some of these things for the budget to get better, so we started asking businesses for support and help. A lot of businesses came forward and made significant donations to the center. BCT, Hagen's Grocery, Buell's Printing Impressions, Willamette Falls Hospital, Kaiser, Berry Park Retirement, Weatherford's, and many others have helped us raise funds or provide direct donations to us to buy things for the center. Some local organizations that are very supportive are the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, Kiwanis, and they've contributed annually to support our efforts as well as providing services to Meals on Wheels. And the staff have been tremendous. When I came, I was told there is no fundraising at this center. We don't do that here. Well, we, poked at my supervisor at the time, Jim Rao, until he let us. So we started selling Christmas wreaths and entertainment books and crafts during the holidays. We've sold dinners, food at the concerts. We've held garage sales. We've done just about anything there is to do to gain money for the center. And that center has benefited from over $95,000 in purchases of equipment and repairs just from fundraising. So I'm really, really grateful to my staff. They have really put in 150% effort to buy things that, and these are, you know, little things. They're big pieces of equipment. So they get an extra round of applause from me. So when I came, the facility was about 25 years old. First thing that happened were the heat pumps went out, one right after the other, all 7 of them. And those are about, well, they've got about a 15-year life on them. And they've been up there for 25, so we got good use out of them. So those were all replaced. The large accordion doors in the dining room and the classroom space that you all are familiar with, those were replaced. We've replaced all the buses, and we're in line to replace another one this July. The giant 55-cup coffee machine was replaced, the ice maker, the giant freezers back in the kitchen, the walk-in refrigeration unit. We've bought 6 computers, a new flat-screen TV. All the carpet, paint, and furniture that you see in the facility now has been purchased within the last, obviously the last 5 years. New flooring has been put in some areas. Countertop and sinks in the bathrooms that were leaking. Several tables and chairs, curtains and blinds, a new PA system, and a steam oven, which at our center, we don't actually cook the food. It's cooked off-site, frozen, and brought to our center to steam hot, because to cook is very expensive staff-wise. So here is the purchase. This was a major piece of equipment that we bought with donation funds. This was a $22,000 piece of equipment that had steamed almost 1 million meals in its lifetime. So that was ripped out. It took 4 really big guys and a jackhammer. And the new one came in, and it's wonderful. We needed new plumbing, new electrical, a new boiler. So it was a considerable amount of work. Yay. And that's Jackie and Shirley. Those are our nutrition coordinator and our Meals on Wheels coordinator. And Jackie is Steve's neighbor.
She's just like that one picture you saw.
So we've had a major facility upgrade. We had really dirty carpet. It was torn, and we were using duct tape to hold it down so people didn't trip on it. The chairs, you can see those blue chairs sitting there, they were so worn and yucky that I wouldn't sit in them. So I figured if I'm not going to sit in them, I can't expect the public to sit in them. So the paint, carpet, and furniture replacement was a combination of city maintenance funds, donations that we had acquired over a couple of years, and part of our endowment fund. And I think it looks pretty darn nice. And you can thank the way it looks. Denise gets the thanks for that, because I don't know what happens. If somebody tells me to go to the store and buy green paint, it comes back and it looks like Band-Aid. I don't know. It's just something that I can't help. I always go for Band-Aid. So thank you, Denise. She picked the colors, and it doesn't look Band-Aid.
Doesn't give herself enough credit. Yeah, she was heavily involved in this and did it fantastic.
It does look so much better.
We're so proud of it, and one of our contracting, one of the ladies that we work with, we contract with the county for funding, came in and last week stopped by and said that they considered the Pioneer Center the crown jewel of the community centers of Clackamas County, so we were pretty pleased. So we've arrived to today, and the Pioneer Center has one of the largest Meals on Wheels routes in Clackamas County. We're second only to the Milwaukee Center. It serves one of the largest noontime meals. And when I came to the center 6 years ago, I'd walk by that dining room, and there was literally 3 people in there. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this program? It's going to die, and there's not going to be anything left. And now there are days that we run out of food because we don't have the funds to serve any more people or the space. So it is a growing program. And we also have one of the largest transportation areas, physical areas to travel over, because we go from Beaver Creek to West Lynn, as well as one of the largest riderships in Clackamas County. So again, we serve 40,000 meals annually, 9,500 meals in the noon time, and that's every day, Monday through Friday. And transportation provides an annual number of about 12,000 rides a year, which is a lot for 2 drivers working part-time. Social services, we provided about 14,300 units of service, and in recreation, about 26,000. We also rent our building and provide meeting space, and we had about 16,000 people in just for those. But we're only open 35 hours a week, and we generally serve about 8,500 to 10,000 units of service, customers a month. So that's about 60 to 70 people an hour. And if you come during the day, you might hit one of my receptionists that's a volunteer and in their 70s. And Susie's my main volunteer receptionist. She works 3 days a week, 8 hours a day as a volunteer, and she's been there 11 years. So staffing levels, I went back and I looked through the files, and in 1996, we were at 7.9 FTE, and we were serving about 5,000 customers. And over the years of cuts here and there, we're down to about 6.8, but that's up. We were down even further, and we've nearly doubled the demand of service. So my folks are working at 150% every day. So not only do we provide senior services, but we provide meeting space, rooms for clubs, weddings, and other events. And this graphic I just put in there because it was fun. So where are we going? Well, the baby boomers are the fastest growing population and the largest aging population in history. There are 76 million of them. Yeah. And I think there's only 2 people in here that aren't baby boomers. So every 7 seconds, someone turns 52. Yeah, ding. There's one. Ding. Ding. So we're anticipating that boomers will choose to stay in their homes longer rather than needing, assisted care or nursing home care. They're going to need transportation services more often because if you're in your home, you need to get where you're going. There's going to be more recreational services, including the pool, library, and the use of parks. Social services support and nutrition and healthy living support will be in high demand. Here's my folks that make this all work. We've got Dave and Marv who drive our buses. They can't possibly fit another person on there. They're magnificent bus drivers. They work hard. They're dedicated. We just wouldn't have these numbers without these 2 guys. And then Jackie and Shirley run the kitchen, and Beth is my client services person. Claire is the program assistant, which does a lot of our recreation coordinating and fundraising coordinating. And then Debbie is listed as a clerical person, but she really is jack of all trades. She covers every job when somebody has the nerve to go on vacation. This is really the crux of what's important for PrAC to understand tonight. This aging population is a major concern for planning for the future. Baby boomers have saved very little. I've been watching this population. I've been involved in aging services for over 2 decades, and we've watched this population change the face of everything that they've moved through. When they were born, we needed more hospitals. When they went to elementary school, we needed more schools. When they got to college age, we needed more college. When they graduated, we needed more housing. Now as they're aging, this group has been a earn and spend group of people. 50% of them have saved less than $50,000 for retirement. So what does that mean to us as a parks group? Well, they're healthier, so they're more active. But half of the bankruptcies that have been filed lately are by boomers. So they're not going to have much money. At least half of them aren't. They may work longer, And due to the disintegration of the multi-generational family unit, you know, grandma, mom, and kids living together and caring for one another as they grow older, many boomers are going to seek more community contact and services. They're going to live in their homes, but that's going to be a major impact to pools, libraries, community services, and parks, community centers. Anything Parks and Rec are going to be massively impacted by this group of people aging. If they don't have money, but they're healthy, they're going to be very active and they're going to be looking for something to do. Something cheap, but something fun. And they're going to want really good service. And where we're at right now, as you know, parks, the pools are getting to be maximum capacity. We're at maximum capacity. Parks are, it's hard to maintain the parks we have and keep them to a level where people find them aesthetically pleasing and safe with the staff we have. So it's a challenge. And we're just on that verge of the boomers really coming of age and using these services. So that's kind of where we're at with Parks and Rec. And if you take nothing else away from this tonight, this future planning, you know, looking at parks to acquire, it's going to get utilized and utilized big. Community centers, keeping them maintained and functioning, keeping the pool maintained and functioning, these are going to be critical services. They're not going to be fluff. They're going to be critical services for people. So do you have any questions?
What's your biggest demographic? I know it's the Asian population, but I'm just curious, like a 10-year.
Well, it's been shifting. 6 years ago, the 70 to 80-year-olds were really, that was the demographics, and we had a few 90-year-olds. You wouldn't catch a 50-year-old in there to save your life. Now those are the faces that we're seeing. 50 to 60, 65 are coming in for the classes, the meeting space, clubs, and the meal component is an older group. But we're still, now we're getting younger people coming to that as well.
Open to any age.
It's 21 and over.
Oh, okay.
And we actually, once in a while, we'll get some young guys in there, and if they come in, I get them in the computer room to, you know, clean our computers up and reprogram the Wii. So we put them to work, and then they don't come back.
Using that Wii quite a bit?
They did initially, and then we had some younger kids, young men come in, and it's an interesting problem. You have young men that come in, and the seniors will chase them out, and then the young men will come to me and say, they won't let me play with the Wii. You know, there's a Wii well. So mom has to go in and divide the room. You play pool, you play the Wii. Don't look at each other. And that pool table is getting so popular that I almost, from the second we open till we close at night, 5 days a week, they've got that pool table locked up. So really, and they're yelling and, you know, carrying on. So nobody really is at the Wii anymore. But it's there. I mean, it'll.
Yeah.
Kathy, compared to the volunteers you have now, do you expect the baby boom generation to be as generous with their time?
You know, that's a really good question. We've been really concerned about it because historically women who did not work outside the home, their kids grew up, the husband retired, she couldn't take it, she went to volunteer. And that's what we've seen historically, are women coming in and volunteering. Well, when I retire, working for free does not really float my boat. That doesn't sound too appealing to me. So we've been really worried about that volunteer pool. But what we're finding, especially with people that have funds that can comfortably retire, they don't want to stay home. So that pool, we've seen a younger group of volunteers coming in, which really surprises me. With the baby boomers, they are typically a group, they don't want to volunteer for fluff. They want action. They want to see progress and a product from their hours of giving. If we can figure out how to harness their knowledge and ability with an appropriate volunteer coordinator that can place them in appropriate places, like grant writers or event planners. People have a tremendous skill base. They don't want to come in and do something like be the door greeter. They want to utilize their skills. As staff, it'll be up to us to ensure that we figure out what their skill set is and get them hooked into the right place so that they are successful and that we benefit from them.
Sounds like you're gonna need them.
We will need them. And the pool will need them, and the library will need them, and the parks will need them. We're going to have to really count on volunteers. So the healthier folks are really going to have to help out with the more frail folks.
Anything online that, like, what you need, like in volunteering or like drivers or?
We have a volunteer application online on the web, and typically what we're looking for are volunteers in the kitchen. It gets to be a little difficult, like up at the reception desk. Susie's been there for 11 years. My big fear is that, you know, if Susie has a catastrophic health issue and she's gone, then I've got 3 days a week that I don't have someone. But I can't really slip anybody in there because that is her job. And she plans on keeping that as long as she can. So we try and be sensitive to those volunteers that want that own those jobs. So we try and train subs as we can, but we find that people, when they volunteer, they take such ownership of what they're doing and they want a schedule. It's almost like hiring for a position. There's some really dedicated people, and we could not do a third of what we do without them.
That's a good question, though. I mean, you know, some people might have some time without it being on a regular schedule. Say, I've got some free time today, and to be able to go to a resource and say, hey, what do you need?
Those kinds of questions, and we have that come up every once in a while. Scott will get an inquiry about, you know, I can do it on this day, and what do you need? And so we've had some park cleanups, those kinds of things. For us, the way we function, we need volunteers pretty regularly. We have to train them on, you know, some pretty major pieces of equipment. That steamer is not something you can just step into and open the door and start steaming food. We had a volunteer get pretty severely burned a couple weeks ago. And they really are just like jobs. And people need to be committed, and they need to come in on a regular basis. And that's the community center's need. I'm not sure with parks or with the pool how they utilize volunteers, but for us, it's because the training is so significant.
You have full, I mean, your full capacity and exercising and stuff like that. You're not looking for volunteers to maybe have more classes at different times.
Well, we have. We don't have the space for some of it. When you've got your exercise classes at maximum capacity and it's going on, and all of your classroom space is all full, we do have classes at night. We don't on the weekends because we rent the building for weddings and whatnot. The interesting thing that happens in these classes, and this goes back to the baby boomers and that family component. People get into these classes and they become a family. They socialize, they connect, and so they all want to stay in the same class together. So the second that that class opens up for registration, I have 75 women running at the front desk with their check. And so it is full almost immediately. And it really speaks to that community gathering, that need to connect to your community.
If I called you on any given day and said I had some time available to drive, would you say I had 4 hours to deliver meals? Would that be something you could utilize?
We would. If you could drive, we would put you as a backup driver. Typically, we've got people scheduled to drive way in advance. They're, again, pretty routine. They've got their days, and they drive they show up, and if by some reason they're sick, then we call in a backup driver.
On that note, during bad weather and stuff like that, do you usually tend to
I called Denise.
more than just one person over there helping out?
Well, when we had the 18 inches of snow, Denise wrangled the chief of police, and they went out on our scariest route. And when she didn't come back after about 3 hours, I started calling because it was bad. It was out on Holcomb. And she and the chief of police were chopping wood for one of my Meals on Wheels clients who had run out of wood. Oh, yeah,
That's awesome.
Oregon City is pretty interesting. You've got some pretty well-to-do folks. We've got a couple of Street of Dreams here in Oregon City, and you've got some extreme poverty in pockets of Oregon City. And when you have an 85-year-old who is down to his last stick of wood, and there's 18 inches of snow outside, that gives you a really good indication of the degree that we have in this city. A year and a half ago.
To their wood, or anything that we could do at that point in time, we did. And we could definitely be big hands on deck when we had severe storms.
And that particular storm, it hit heavy and it hit long, because we send out a couple of emergency meal packs for bad weather. But that wasn't enough. For 2 weeks we were out. And it was also over Christmas, so our Christmas stockings that we send out to our clients, we were so lucky. We had people, because it was on the news, we had people with four-wheel drives and chains just showing up. And typically we do a criminal background check on anybody that volunteers, but these were pretty unique circumstances. So we had one guy show up. He was going to fly somewhere to see his family. Planes weren't going out. He said, "I've got nothing for Christmas going on. Can I help?" We sent him out with fill a stocking, fill a heart, and they delivered our stockings. It was awesome. So yeah, we could use anybody that has four-wheel drive, chains. Feels like chopping wood.
Kathy, is it unusual that one city, Oregon City, would provide service for West Lynn, another city? Is there an agreement?
It's a little unusual.
Yeah.
They don't have a senior center with the capabilities that we have. We're a focal point nutrition site, which means we contract with Clackamas County for funding to provide Meals on Wheels, transportation, and social services. They don't have that contract, and it's unlikely that they will get it anytime soon. So what they do is they contract with us and they pay us to provide Meals on Wheels and social services and transportation.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Kathy. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Nice presentation, Kathy.
Thank you.
Do you like my graphics?
Beautiful.
I think Ray's going to take a little intermission here. Sure. Okay, so let's move on to Fort Bravo, Carnegie Center utilization process. And I have nothing really new to report on that. And I know that we've been in negotiation or renewing a contract or.
Yeah, I'll give you just a little update on that. We, at your last meeting, talking about, you gave a really good report, Brian, a comprehensive report about the task force meeting, the third one that had taken place just before that. and there have not been any more task force meetings since then. What we've been doing is, what occurred out of that was a little bit of additional research time that was required by the consultant to go do some extra effort, and so we've had to do a little adjustment to that contract. But moreover, what the issue is the timeline has kind of gotten pushed out a little bit. But at this point, that's not as much of an issue in that it does appear that the library, our library will be moving into the Carnegie Center as a temporary relocation while we're still making some decisions about the future of that. Still in negotiations about the Easton School. And even if that goes forward and is approved, there'll be some time where things have to be done and remodels. And so, but that doesn't in any way take any, that doesn't in any way negate the work that's been done by the task force and by the consultant, because as a temporary relocation, the library is going to move out of Carnegie, and when they do, we'll have to have in place a plan ready to make that some type of community center. So, but there's not quite as much of an urgency because the library is going to move in there. What it looks like we're doing, we've kind of updated our timeline a little bit with the consultant, and kind of a tentative calendar looking ahead for the next few weeks. The consultant's doing some additional research on other Carnegie centers and these types of things that the task force asks to do. They're going to be doing that through the first part of May. Then they'll produce a kind of an initial draft report, and then hold another task force meeting. That was some of the additional time and work as well, that the task force agreed that they needed to meet one final time or further time. It looks like that will take place around, I think tentatively we've got it scheduled for May 24th. I don't know if that's been confirmed yet by the task force, but that's the date that's kind of out there. And then they're looking to present the final recommendation to the City Commission in the first half of June. And then, depending on what happens there, basically kind of finalize the report and have that in hand. So that's what's going on. And again, Brian's been your representative, and so he'll be in the loop on the upcoming additional meeting, and when the draft reports come out and that gets sent around to the task force, and those folks, Brian will have all that info. So that's really all I've got. It was just an update item. I want to make sure you knew what was going on with that, and if you had any other questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Well, it's timely, it sort of changes the equation a little bit, because nearly every iteration of IDEA had some sort of library component to it, it seemed at least. So, not that can't still remain. But, and understandably, I guess there's really no timeline for the delay in getting the library into the school. In other words, knowing when the contents of the library will be out of the Carnegie Center. That'd be my only question, really.
I'm not sure. It's the best answer I can say right now. As we move forward in this discussion about the Easton building in the next few weeks, we'll know more. I imagine maybe by your next CRAC meeting, we may even know a little bit more. But as of right in the task force, by the next task force meeting, we might even know better what the answer is to that, Brian. But as of right now, everything's so not sure that I can't really answer that question very well.
Thank you, Scott.
What I can tell you though is, even in the best case scenario, it's going to be the better part of a year, but to do all the designing and then the remodeling, all the stuff that has to happen. So it's probably going to be about a year, but again, everything that's all subject to change, and it could be shorter, it could be longer.
Has there been an agreement on the sale of Easton to the city?
No, there's been a lot of discussion back and forth between our city and the school district and the two governing bodies, the school board and the city commission, and a lot of negotiation, but there's they're pretty close, I think, I guess is what I would say. I think they're pretty close. That information has all been publicly discussed for the most part, and they're kind of talking about back and forth a little bit about price and some different things, but I think it's looking like it's getting closer to sort of just either saying yes or no and moving forward.
And ultimately, Scott, the plans for the library, aside from the Carnegie Center, that's not a PrAC-related issue, correct?
For these, are you talking about the Carnegie Center use part of that, or
Talking about where the library goes?
No, not unless it affects one of our parks and recreation facilities, which
That was my
this
understanding.
temporary relocation to the Carnegie Center does.
Right.
But what that comes down to really is that lease at the Danielson Center is ending very soon, and the Carnegie Center is really not the only option, but it's probably the only good option. And the city has just made kind of a decision that this is what we've got to do. We've got to just utilize a facility that we have and go forward. So.
I'm curious. Oh wait.
None of that system's working quite yet.
But
So
it's
you
okay
probably
then,
can.
I had a Hellendale meeting last month, and thanks for coming, Brian. And the master plan was unveiled for the thing, and I had asked them if they had given if the people would be coming back, if they gave first chance for the current tenants to come back, and they said yes. So I was just curious why it wasn't discussed to just go back to the same location, or was it a lot more money, or?
Which same? I'm not.
I'm saying where the library is now.
Oh, at the Danielson.
Yeah, that it seemed to me when they were showing the master plan of what it's going to be, that they gave the tenants the right to come back. So, which I don't think it was a good location anyway, but.
Our library director has been the one that's been dealing with that, so I can't really speak for her or for the library, but I just from what I do understand, we've explored all options to extend the opportunity to stay there as long as we can.
Yeah.
That's ideally, that obviously isn't a long-term vision, isn't to be in the space that we were in anyway.
Oh, okay.
But the library folks would rather not move twice, and so they did explore all that opportunity to stay. And if the Easton thing does go through, then to move once into Easton. But that didn't work out with the owner of the Danielsons, and there were some timing things, and I don't fully understand it all.
Yeah, I was just curious because I mean it looked like a great new plan. I mean it was more pedestrian friendly, which is nice.
Okay, well, thank you, Scott, for that. And how about letter C there, Kanema Park grant application? Get an update on that. Can you time too?
I'm passing around a copy of the master plan. There probably aren't quite enough copies for everyone, but they're pretty good size, so maybe you can kind of set them in between you and share a little bit. At your last meeting, I indicated to you that we are applying for a grant to develop Kanema Park. It's the Kanema neighborhood, or the Kanema Children's Park is what it's often referred to. The discussion, what we talked about, just as a refresher, we're applying for about a $500,000 grant, of which half of that would be the city's match, $250,000. So we're asking the state Parks and Recreation Department for $250,000 through the local government grant program. That's the lottery-funded open spaces program. We did submit the application just very recently. We won't know anything on that until I believe it's early July. We'll be making a presentation to the board that makes those decisions. So I'll keep you posted. But in that discussion, it occurred to me and to us that some of you, especially the newer members, haven't seen the master plan for the redevelopment of the park. There are some of you that have been on the board for a little bit longer, and we've talked about this before. But so I just wanted to bring this back to you and show you. This is what you've got. The picture is the adopted master plan. In 2004, the city went through a process of, there is an existing park site there, but it's in a pretty diminished state. And then I think you're all very familiar with the fact that we had to remove the playground equipment a couple of years ago because it had deteriorated to the point where it was a safety hazard and a liability issue. It basically, that master plan process has already been done. We've been through what is the park going to be, what does it look like, so we have a very clear vision of that, and that's what you're looking at. In a nutshell, what the features of the park are, would be, they would include, improvements would include a new ADA accessible parking lot, new accessible pathways and a trail, a new ADA compliant playground, other site furnishings like benches and picnic tables, a new overlook, that's kind of on the top, would be the top right of your picture, sort of top middle right that kind of sticks out a little bit. That's sort of an overlook right on the bluff there. A new full-size basketball court, expanded lawn areas, new interpretive signage, additional picnic area, some invasive species removal and replanting with native plants. And also what we'd be looking at is our part of the property, the city owns most of what's on your page there on the kind of the left part of it, which would be the south part of the park. We have an agreement with Metro that we actually have an easement agreement to utilize a portion of that Metro 40-acre, what's called the Kenema Bluffs property, the kind of the open native area out there. And what we're also talking about, in this application is being done in partnership with Metro, so we're going in together, which gives it even more credibility. I think it gives it a stronger application potential. Is that we're talking about doing some development of the pathways out into the Kenema Bluff area, and then out to this overlook point. I don't know if you've been out to that spot or not, but you walk several hundred yards out through the bluffs, and there is a kind of a natural overlook, and we're talking about doing some, basically doing some enhancement of that area. So there's this connection with Metro in this application process. The majority of it is our small neighborhood park piece, which would be what you're mostly looking at there, but then kind of off the page of what you're seeing goes out into that neighborhood or the Metro property.
Wasn't there somebody who wanted to donate some property or something like that involved in this as well?
Not so much in this. There have been some discussions about some property. I don't know about donation as much as sale, but we've looked at those and kind of explored them. Metro's also acquired some additional properties in the last year and a half out there.
I thought somebody wanted to sell a portion, but give some portion as well.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that was discussed. You're right, Marty.
Does this have, north and south?
Let's see. Yeah, 99E is right down below where you're pointing in the river. So north is on the right of the map, probably on that. So again, that was just following up from our last meeting, and I think there was a request to have me bring that back and have you look at the master plan. We've got a full master plan report. If you're interested, I can provide that. You can read the whole thing if you really want to. So there's some narrative that goes along with that. That's just the master plan, site plan drawing.
I know it's probably more money, but I'm just curious why you chose basketball over tennis. That's part of what I'm talking about, the narrative. That was just what was preferred. There's a public process, probably mostly developed through a lot of neighborhood input, but it was open to the public that you go through the master plan process and you kind of get the strong indication of what people want, and that's what came out of it. Not so much a money issue, just this is what was desired. Yeah.
So that what's on there reflects what the public input was through that process.
Well, a lot of green space. So the thing on the right is that's the monkey bars and all that stuff.
That's the playground, yeah.
Is that like a not a gondola?
Gazebo, yeah, picnic shelter, gazebo. Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah, then the basketball courts and
the Muscle Beach.
restrooms or is it the Atkinson Park?
No restrooms.
No,
Yeah, it's,
that would be a lot.
yeah, it'd be pretty costly, but also we typically in small neighborhood
Yes.
parks, we don't install restrooms.
About
The
before,
idea is they're
yeah.
walk-through parks and you should be
So people are
relatively
really,
close to them.
really open if you're knocking on the door. Because it's a small.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott, I'd like to get us out there for a meeting, you know, maybe have a meeting on that side or just go out there.
So this is to scale?
There may not be any.
It is, yeah,
It's not a very big park.
No, it's,
Of course, taking up that much space.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's probably, including the metro property that we, kind of goes into that southern part of the park. I think it's a couple of acres at the most. I can't remember exactly.
Isn't it nice that it looks like you could do a loop? What connects over here?
Well, that's the trail connection out into the metro,
Oh, okay.
property that eventually their goal is to put some trail systems in out there that you can loop around and come
Wow.
back and,
So it looks like you could do a nice little loop.
Yeah.
You know, however small.
The illustration is great, Scott.
Yeah.
thanks, that's from,
Helps the perspective.
yeah, that's from Kurt Lango Hansen Landscape Architects. They've done some of our park projects.
Okay, nice job.
Brian, back to your point about the visiting the site,
Site visit, yeah.
we had talked about, and I guess I'd like to ask the question of what PrAC would like to do there is, we talked about maybe doing a citywide tour of facilities and parks, and we could either include that one and stop and kind of look and walk around, or if you want to have a specific meeting or site visit just at this site. Because I think I was planning on, hopefully in the early part of the summer, one of your meetings actually being or setting up a special tour. We've done that in the past. We haven't done it for a couple of years with PrAC, but I'd like to do that. So, and then when we do that, we go through and I kind of identify with PrAC what would you like to specifically see that we need to go visit.
This
So,
would be one of many.
right. If that would work for you, then that'll be covered in that tour.
Like a Pioneer bus or something.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Use one of the senior center buses and we jump on it and run around town
Sounds
and
good.
look at sites. So, okay,
Pretty
good.
good.
Great.
Good. Okay, and the Trail and Promenade signage design project. Got another update on that?
I do. Another update, and I've got more pictures. Today is picture day. That's why I ran out when Kathy was presenting. I forgot some of these. These are all, what I'm handing out are just one packet. So if you can kind of skim through it and look, and then I've also got some larger displays up on the board over here that you're welcome to walk up to and look at. Maybe when we're done with the meeting, you can look at those a little closer up, and I'd be happy to answer questions. But as you know, we've been working on a trail and promenade design or signage design package, and we're getting pretty close to kind of a final vision for that design. The pictures that are coming around, we've got two different elements. So when you're looking at these, keep in mind the first couple on top and what you've got up here. This is the promenade design up here. So that's the signage package for the promenade. And then the other pictures in there got a few different examples, but we're looking at down on our riverfront properties on John Storm and Clackamas and the new 99E improvements and the trail system that goes through there, and then over to the Clackamas River Trail over on the Cove, is putting in some standardized signage with, you'll see some larger boards that'll have like a park trail map kind of a thing where you know where you can go through the trails. We'll have some smaller markers that'll give you some mileages and distances and directional things, and you'll see some smaller posts kind of a thing. And then we'll have kind of a medium size sort of in between where you might come into an intersection point in the trail, and it'll tell you, if you go this way, you'll get to the new Willamette Terrace, which is the big new deck overlook on 99E. If you go right, you'll work your way down to John Storm Park and to Clackamas Park and so forth. So this is a kind of a whole vision of putting together something that we haven't done, and I know there's been some interest from PrAC. There's been a lot of interest in the community. We're also now talking with some of our downtown folks about even doing a connector between the riverfront and through downtown to the promenade and having some directional stuff. And interest signage and whatever interpretive signage. As far as the promenade goes, what we're talking about is the big picture on the left, the three different signs there. You've got kind of basically like a light post flag type of a sign that'll be up above the promenade path. The option C, if you're looking at the pictures in the packet, are up there, which is the one on the furthest right, is the design I think we've kind of honed in on.
Yeah,
And then, yeah, then the others are signs that will be at, we have an entry point on Fifth Avenue that comes into the promenade. That is the site that we've talked about. That's where the flagpole's at. And I think you've heard me mention several times that we're doing a memorial kind of a thing to recognize Keith and Lila Kelly, who were the longtime volunteers, the older couple that basically just loved and took care of the promenade as they were multiple times named Volunteers of the Year by the city. And we're going to do a memorial kind of a thing for them on the back of that entry point sign. So you'll come into the promenade and it'll say you're entering the McLaughlin Promenade, and on the back of that it'll be some language about their volunteerism. There'll be a picture of them. We've been working with their grandson, who has a bunch of information, and is kind of our connection to them. And then also the other one on the far right of the farthest right of the two is something that you would probably see coming off of the elevator. So we're going to hit you at coming into each starting ending point of the promenade, which is basically right where we're at here at Singer Hill. That's an entry point or an exit point. At the far south end, down by the VFW and down by the Museum of the Territory, where the promenade sort of begins and ends down there, you'll come in and we'll have those kind of more of those flag or light pole types of signage. And then in the middle, we'll have that Fifth Avenue entry point, and then coming off of the elevator, because that's the main sort of an entry point for people, you'll have another sign, and these will be done in a manner that is reflective of some of the history here. There's a little different style for the promenade because of the historical neighborhood and the historical aspects, and also the signage matches what we've got as if you have ever paid attention or noticed coming up Singer Hill, there's the large sign that basically says you're entering the McLaughlin Historical District, and that's the kind of what we're basing our design off of for things to look consistent. So that's what you're looking at there. And also, besides the signage on the promenade, we're doing all new historical looking benches, but they'll be brand new. And we're replacing all of the garbage cans with something a lot nicer than what you see now as well. So we'll have new signage, garbage cans, benches, and then of course the restoration project that you know about that's going on. So the promenade will look really nice. This is all going to be done hopefully by this summer. So kind of informational. We're sort of in the final design period here. If you've got any feedback, if you feel strongly about something, now is a good time to let us know, or not necessarily at this meeting, but I mean, let either Denise or I know your thoughts or whatever. If PrAC specifically has any issues or concerns, we'd like to hear them.
The only thing, and I'm sure you guys have already done this, is that some of the signs have put them in a place where it's hard to traffic-wise. I mean, it's like they find the perfect place, and it's like it's really, so I don't know if those are going to be placed in any traffic areas at all.
Those are more in pedestrian areas, so they'll be focused on visibility for the pedestrians coming in and out of the promenade as a pedestrian.
Oh, okay. So probably the thinner one would be better, so that's less you have to walk around. So I know that one area, and the elevator area you're talking about when you go into the I think that's just a small amount.
They'll be in some existing landscape areas and some places that won't take up any of the walkways. So yeah, definitely.
What are the larger signs on the right there? What type of material are they? And I'm not a pessimist certainly, but I have seen graffiti. Is there such a thing as graffiti or damage resistant? I mean, are we there? Are we there yet?
There.
Yeah.
We're looking at some pretty new material. It feels like wood, but it is a vinyl type material, and it's laminated and overlaid so that it has this feel almost like a wood, but it's overlaid with laminate so that if something gets written on it or spray painted, supposedly if you get it cleaned up within a couple of days, it will come right off. And the material is very heavy duty, and we're building all of the posts and all of the structures and everything that anchors and foundations and so forth to be as vandal resistant as you can make it. You can't completely guard against that, unfortunately. But we're going to, that's a big piece of our design.
Well, that's great.
That's a major consideration we've been working with our designer on, yeah.
I saw once where they just put a sprayer inside and if somebody down the way just sprayed on it. I think that was very
Thinking Demolition Man, actually.
Yeah.
Well, they have a lot of material to clean up, a lot of
No, that's a huge consideration that we're looking at in
I think that's
the design, yeah.
Perfect. Very cool. I never have original ideas. Somebody's already thought of it. All of them. Okay. Okay, the end of the Oregon Trail site process. We've got a task force member appointed and also an alternate. So, the 28th, I believe, is the first get together in about 6 days.
You've got your representative, Ted, and then
Ted and Ray, the alternate.
Shoemaker and Gordon.
It's like a law firm.
And Gordon.
No, Gordon Shoemaker.
Oh, sorry.
Bright eyes.
Interesting to hear.
Anything else?
that's really it. No,
Yeah.
again,
So we're waiting that meeting, and then
Yeah.
we'll ask Ted and Ray for an update. Actually, might just be Ted because I think Ray said she couldn't make the first or the next meeting. I'm not sure.
and that was just kind of a standing item here for the next
Okay.
few meetings as we go through that process.
All right, that'll be interesting to see, and perhaps we may see some overlap between that process and the Carnegie process. Yes. Is there a possibility, potentially?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
You have to kind of look at everything in a holistic way. You can't just take everything individually. But
Right. I'm just reminded, I guess, of the paper that was ultimately presented to the city after the EOTC evaluation process that we had, and it indicated there was an indication there that at least they thought that the management of the historical Oregon City or the representation of such in the community was more than just, or was beyond one organization's capability, and that the city of Oregon City would take a hold of that and manage it itself rather than entrust it to any one organization. At least that's what I read. So that the city of Oregon City is going to take a greater role and responsibility in the management of the historical context and the representation of the historical context of Oregon City. Well, that's at least was the recommendation of the consultant.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say is just that nothing has been decided about anything, but I think the city will be looking at all of the different considerations and issues. So yeah.
Great. And other general business.
I've got an item. I already talked to you about the application for the potential PrAC member. Want me to go ahead and invite her to the
That would be great.
Okay.
To our next meeting.
And then the following back up on something that you brought up at the last time. Actually, Ray, you brought up the issue about the potential change in the day with the conflict. It looks like it will be pretty challenging to hone in on something as a different date, because there's so many different committee meetings that are occurring in this particular room now, and for us to be able to have the ability to do the recording and webcasting. So outside of exploring moving back to a different facility, which I wouldn't recommend, I don't know that it's gonna, I think it's gonna be tough to find a different night.
Yeah, I've had a blast. But I think in a couple weeks I'll draft. I mean, I'll do a letter and stuff, and give me a chance to do my other Thursday job. You know, it may tank.
Yeah, you don't have to. The committee isn't quite full right now, and I don't have a ton of people lined up applying for any seats. So, you know, I would encourage you to make sure, and because you can always wait a month or the bylaws give you the opportunity to miss a couple of meetings, but you know, at some point you have to kind of say yes or no or whatever. But.
Yeah, I'll know in about a month. Just, you know, they throw me out. Like I said, Thursday nights are a very big part-time job night for me.
So
we'll, you know, we'll extend that as long as we can, I think. Right, yeah. So, okay, that's all I'll say.
Good. Well, you know, Thursday nights
Yeah.
after this you can go to Cheryl's.
Okay, let's go to PrAC member reports. Shall we start with Mr. Steve McAdoo? Since I always start on my right, I'll start on my left this time.
I don't really have anything. I know that's surprising to a lot of you. Just don't have anything to report.
Nothing for me either tonight, Brian. Sorry about that.
Okay. So I'm going to be the first one to talk on PrAC member reports. That's fine. Well, I came here and I sat right there last night. I talked to the commission for 3 minutes and just gave an update from really, I think, more of a swim dad perspective, or somebody that was active on the team. Although I spoke with a PrAC hat too. But I gave an update by way of, you know, how the pool was doing, and we had a great swimming meet, and which they knew, and give a little bit more specific detail on that. Thank them and City of Oregon City for making that happen. And then my ambition is to not that they don't have it in view, and certainly they do, but to elevate it perhaps in the next coming month, or the next couple of months, to get the last block open, which would mean coming up with a slide option that would allow the block number 3, the competitive block, and lane number 3 to be able to be in place. So there's a chance, and you know, Scott and Denise know better than I do, and about it, but there's a chance that we may get that on the agenda in the next meeting. Just for that to be discussed, and certainly I'll provide a lot of information, as much as I need to provide to you guys to enlighten the commission on you know, how to move forward, and we'll just do the best we can. The team is you know, they really want to see it done, of course, and we're raising funds. You know, the team is raising funds, and to do that, to help, you know. So, but we know the time we live in also, and the estimates for replacing the slide is around 20,000, an average of about 20,000 over about 4 different contractors, vendors. And so yeah, let's go into the slide business.
This seems crazy.
But anyway, I'm optimistic, and and I also know a few Jedi mind tricks, so I might use those in the near future. And that's all I got.
Nothing to report, weather ain't nice enough yet.
Steve, return this book that I mentioned before, this Willamette Landings. It talks about sites along the Willamette, including Kanema and on up. If somebody else would like to borrow and take a look. All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. The only other thing I'll say is I got here early tonight and enjoyed our wonderful evening and took a walk along the prom, and it really is looking great. It's going to be a heck of a place to get nice exercise and nice views of the city. So anyway, it's looking really good.
Just a couple things. I was gonna say that I did the Ellendale meeting and had two sets of visitors. One was the master plan for the Danielson's lot, and a lot of changes. Really, particularly pedestrian friendly, which was really good. It's gonna look a lot different. I don't know if you've seen it. It's kind of interesting. You know, I couldn't figure out which side was up and which one was down. That's how it's so different. And then also the Wesley Lynn, the high school students who did that Wesley Lynn project, starts with P, what is it called? What's it called? What is it? Park, yeah! Pergola? Yeah, a pergola. And they came and they were so excited, and what they did was amazing. The program that Oregon City High School puts on, and how excited the kids were, and the team thing, and what they did was amazing. I wanted them to come straight to my house, and so that was really good. So and I went down to LA for a vacation and some business, and I went to a park, so I didn't homework.
Cool. If I could just tag on to that a little bit, what Ray was saying about the shelter at Westland and the rest of the work that the high school group has done, which is it is phenomenal. We're getting close to they're kind of starting to wrap up the picnic shelter, which is the last big piece that they're doing. And I just want you to know, and I'll keep you posted. They're gonna have kind of a little grand opening thing. The class that did that, and we're not quite sure what we're doing exactly yet, but I think maybe end of May, late May, before school gets out or something. So it may be something that's kind of last minute and whatever, but I'll throw an email out or something to let you know, and it's something you can come to. It's really neat. If you haven't had a chance, I recommend you go by and take a look at that. That's all been built by high school students. It's a major park facility.
And a lot of people are so proud of them because it was a packed house. And I was like, wow, this is going to be a great meeting. Which it was a great meeting. But when they left, there were about 5 people left. Like, wait a minute, maybe we should stay.
How many meetings? Have you had 2 now?
I've had 2. Oh, and thank you, by the way.
Because I was at the first one.
And this gentleman, did the first reactivation meeting. He did a great job. It was fun.
Did you show up?
No.
Oh, yeah, didn't you see him there? I was under the table.
Oh, it's going good up there, though?
Yeah. Slowly but surely. You know, it hasn't been activated for a long time, I guess. Or consistent. It's great. You missed some good cookies.
So Ray, you mentioned Danielson's area master plan.
Yeah.
Is that, am I understanding right? Is that where the Thriftway is?
Yeah. So the whole thing. The whole. Is it?
Have they poured the building yet?
Not yet. They're starting now.
So I know there's plans to tear the building down.
Yeah, I think so.
So Safeway is going to consume a portion of that, correct? And
right, and somehow, if I'm remembering the thing correctly, it's like the market is going to be closer to one street, closer to a street than it is now. So that's why it's going to look a little different.
The intent is to have trails up there, huh?
I think it's pedestrian friendly. I'm not sure about the trails, having any kind of trail system.
Maybe I misunderstood you.
But they were talking about that creek and kind of making that more. There's that creek right there with the bushes and stuff.
He knows it well. He cleaned it once.
Yeah. I look familiar.
By the police.
So yeah, so there might be a little element of making it kind of little trail, and then also they're very adamant about runoff and stuff not going to the creek, and like they talk about that kind of stuff. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too.
And actually, it's going to do a follow-up. So I might have them in July the 1st. I think it's the first Tuesday of July.
Who presented?
The what? The architects.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then in July they'll have a you know, review of where they've gotten so far. So they'll come back again, Brian Hillendale.
Slow down.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Stay strong.
Before they tear it up, we go in.
That'd be fun.
Okay, cool, all right. Staff reports.
I put a few handouts at your place. We could talk about those. There's also a new roster for, because we've had some changes and updates and reappointments, so that's just for your information. Also, I'm going to pass out, give this to Ray, you can take one and pass it on the city recorder. Nancy I gave this to me today to pass out. This is our adopted city commission goals for 2010. This nice little booklet that puts gives you the goals and the action items. You can take a look through that when you get a chance. And then one of the other handouts looks like this. There's an event that's taking place this Saturday at Hellendale Park, and what I wanted to point out to you specifically on there, if you read through that, is there's a note about a ribbon cutting for an inclusive swing. This is something that is kind of a first for us. We, the Blackness Developmental Disabilities Program actually installed this at no cost to us. It was basically, they asked, could we install this at one of your existing swing sets? So they took off one of our regular swings and put in this, what they call an inclusive swing, which is basically like a handicap use type of a swing. And so that's at the playground at Hellendale Park. It was installed just recently. So it's the first in our park system for us. So it's a really neat thing, and it's through this partnership with these couple of agencies. So I wanted to call that to your attention, and they're having a little kind of a groundbreaking in an event this Saturday from 9 to noon. And that's all I have. I'd call on Denise to give you a recreation update.
OCCIT grant was awarded $12,425 towards I think we're a little bit over 10,000. That will hit doors probably right around the water edge. Started out a little rougher than what people can handle. There being abrasion. And now it's a little slippery. So we're going to try and hit middle ground with something that's non-abrasive yet has a coat. Lastly, we are tracking for
Riley won't be home this summer, so no water park employee.
I was gonna ask that, do you have any returning people for the
I am not
water
sure
park?
yet. We've had one gentleman return. We have positions that we've done. We've done last week. The advertisement is probably gonna go out in the next couple of weeks. We do need that, we do need people.
Teen or over?
Anybody or anybody out there in the viewing public.
They have to be responsible.
That would be preferred.
Water, small children.
And really is full-time for those?
It's
For
just
doing
shy
that.
of 40 hours a week.
Okay.
Averages right around 36.
Need to be on site,
On site, outside, open and involved.
5 days.
We run a shift.
Good tan. They're lucky and really nice. Larry will give them a gator to drive around too. Riley never broke it, did he?
You might put that in there. It would appeal to a lot of 18-year-old girls.
Hey Denise, with regard to the space there on the 12th Street side, adjacent to the waiting pool, and the discussions ongoing, how to use that outside area on 12th Street. All right, yeah.
The concept, and it all depends on funds, is barbecue.
I think that's fantastic. Sounds great.
Would it be open to the public if it wasn't rented? It's not at this time.
Is there a concept drawing of that, or
I haven't gotten there yet, but
Okay.
I definitely will.
maybe?
It's all right up in there.
Well, yeah. And I don't want to make work for you either, Denise. But at some point, maybe we could take a look at that. Yeah.
I don't have the CAD capacity.
Right. Okay.
but
All right.
Definitely, have done
Well, that just makes so much sense to use that. I mean, back in the 70s, we used it for, various and sundry things, and it's sort of always been an overflow area for swimming meets, back in the day as well, for a lot of swimmers to hang out there on a nice day. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I don't know how much it's missed by the community, but I know my kids, when they were little, used to go there. My wife used to take them there as a community wading pool.
It still is.
Oh, it's still is.
The
Wading pool.
wading pool is
Yeah.
open to the community, it's still free. It's heavily used throughout the summer.
Okay.
So what we're talking about is the adjacent deck area.
Yeah, fully enclosed and,
Okay.
and
So
immediately
inside the
being,
building?
The building is just, the wading pool has to have.
I see.
well, great, I think that's about it. So unless anybody has any further comments or questions or, okay, yeah. Yes.
Mr. Sweeney. So I didn't get to meet
Yes.
him or anything from last time.
He's been duly appointed.
He's in.
Yes, he has
Did
been.
you hear from him at all?
I didn't hear about anything about tonight.
Okay,
I'll
well,
write that in the report.
He's officially on board.
He's been appointed. He was here at the last meeting, and there was just a timing issue with getting him appointed on an agenda, so but he participated and
At the last meeting, he hadn't been appointed yet.
right. No, I didn't hear from him specifically about tonight. I'm not sure what the issue was.
Is Larry still
yeah, I was
intending
that too.
to join us? Did anything change there?
No, it's just
Did he hate it?
Tell him we miss him.
I will pass that along. No, it's just the last couple meetings he hasn't attended just because he's kind of said, hey, do I need to be there? Is there anything specific for me? Because he's working. He's working pretty fast and furious right now, so I just try to let him have the night off when I can. But he'll still intermittently be coming and interacting with the group.
He'll play with you again.
Maybe he's afraid to be on that thing. No, I really no.
Probably on his lawnmower somewhere.
Taking care of
Okay,
that meeting, okay with everybody?
yeah, the 27th is the next meeting. Yep.
And then
May
And
26th,
afterwards,
27th.
trails.
quick question on that. We'll have that'll be the regular meeting, and then as far as this tour, I'd really like to follow up with you on that. We've done it a couple different ways. We can either do that as one of your regular meetings, so it'd be like your June meeting, or do it a separate time during, when the weather starts getting a little nicer, and just do an extra meeting. So it's whatever your preference would be, that you would have an extra meeting one month if you want to do it as a separate thing. Because what that kind of does, it sort of pushes off any business that we have to cover if we do that as your regular meeting, which is okay. But plus we can, as we're driving around, if there's something we need to talk about, we can do that, and it's still a meeting. So it's your call. I'd probably be looking for some feedback for it.
What you call a meeting on wheels.
I kind of like the idea of incorporating meetings.
So maybe the June meeting. Should we look at the June meeting?
Yeah, and then have the meal at the Pioneer.
I think it's realistic to expect it to be a longer meeting, certainly.
And good point, Ted. What we've done in the past with that is started it earlier. Maybe you might have to adjust some schedules or whatever, but 4:30 or 5 to make sure we get enough time, because it does take a few hours to get around. And if you want to walk some of the sites, we actually stop. And typically, what we've done is we'll get some some box lunches to go, and we'll feed you while we're driving around. So because it's going to be during dinner time and so forth. So if that works, Pizza Hut too, they'll have to catch up with us. So what I've heard is that we would schedule this tour in place of, or not in place, but it'd be your regular meeting time in June. Does that sound good?
In June.
So we'll plan towards that, and then as we lead up to that, I'll look for some feedback from you on some specific sites that you want to look at. I'll probably have some suggested sites as well. We can kind of put those together, come up with a route or whatever. That sounds good.
Sounds great.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, let's call the meeting adjourned at 8:27.
Wow.